uh, a killer shark, uh, a massive hurricane, a drunken, horny detective. This is 1984 at its best here, Riptide by Donald D. Cheatham. And the best part of this book is the cover. So it's not the worst book I ever read, but it's up there. Lots of expository dialogue. Is that right? Everything pretty much in this book is told by dialogue, except for the shark attacks and the hurricane. Dialogue is not very good. So, what's the plot? The plot is there's a man-eating shark come to the Tampa Bay area in Florida, and the new detective has to deal with it. The new detective, who's a hero from St. Louis, he took care of somebody known as the St. Louis Sniper, who was just shooting people at random. This is three books in one, actually, and they're all told to you through dialogue between the main characters. The main character is this police detective who's found fame as the hero of St. Louis, who goes down to Florida. He moves to Florida after he gets divorced from his wife because his wife is a social climber and he's not. He's just a regular guy who wants to be a regular guy. But of course, as soon as he gets famous, they make a movie about his life. He gets rich. He thinks, well, I'll move down to Florida. I'll be a detective. All I ever wanted to be was a detective. And he, his new partner is a woman, a very attractive woman, which and she's a detective, a homicide detective, and of course he's attracted to her immediately. And you really get to hear more about her body than you do about her mind. We don't get to hear how either of these people wound up being detectives, or the training they had, or the cases they were on, or the hardships of being a detective. There's no first 48 kind of thing going on here. There's no depth to it. It's basically just will they get together, will they not, kind of thing. So this 26-foot tiger shark starts eating people. We're never really told why. The one nice thing about this novel, I'll say, is that the shark isn't really anthropomorphized. It's never given human motives or human thought, really. Maybe there's one scene that it's blink and you'll miss it. So there's a red tide, right? Is it red tide? The algae that kills all the fish. And this giant tiger shark, which tiger sharks don't get 26 feet. I feel like maybe the author wanted to do a Jaws ripoff, but felt that, well, I can't do a great white, so I'll do a tiger shark. And the shark comes in to eat all these dead fish and to eat other sharks, and it winds up eating a guy who's just had a fight with his wife. He's went out, he's sitting on a dock with his legs over the side, and the shark comes over, grabs him, and pulls him out, eats him, and so he goes missing. And it's the detectives are given the job of finding this missing guy. But what happens instead is that the 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 head detective, a lady, I can't remember her name. I should have remembered it for this, but she takes him to a hotel and introduces him to attractive women. And then later on, he goes home and he's just thinking about her. So he calls her up, let's go out and have a drink. So they go out and have a drink and they go to a singles bar where there are more attractive women. And he hooks up with one of them. And basically, the shark is a sideshow to this guy's blooming sexuality, I guess. And he's in his 40s. He's a Vietnam veteran. And it's really, like I said, it's three books in one. And none of them are executed well. It could have been a book about the detective in St. Louis trying to overcome this serial killer, basically. It could have been about the two detectives dealing with the shark, or it could have been about the massive hurricane that comes in and completely steals the plot away from the shark to the point where for about 100 pages we don't hear anything about the shark at all except when it's eating people who are victim to the hurricane. There's a seedy councilman who's got a 60 some odd foot yacht, and the detective immediately has this sense that he doesn't like this guy, but we never get a reason why, really. I mean, it's kind of implied that how did he get all this money? But that's never followed up. There's a scene where the two detectives and a policewoman are sent to a nude beach, and in order to keep attention down from the police being on this nude beach, the three of them together, this guy, his boss, another policewoman, they all have to get naked and sift through the sand. And then the shark attacks this little girl and comes up, and the shark's staring at the detective. And I don't know. This book kind of reads like a teenager wrote it. It reads like something that was written by a high schooler. It kind of having a it reads like somebody who has very little experience with real life wrote this book. It's a neat cover though, right? It was $1.74. This book goes for $85 on eBay. And if you're thinking about buying this book for $85, please don't. Just take a screenshot of that. Find it on Google. Just this book is not worth $85. The cover pretty nice. So anyway, for in the middle of all this shark eating all these people, these fishermen and things, what do? Well, the councilman with the giant boat gets mad and says, well, you two better do something about this. And what do? They do what they do in Jaws. They call in all these fishermen to come in. Jaws is referenced in this book, by the way, to kill the shark because a very attractive woman, who's a very attractive lady doctor, who's ah, I don't mean it to sound that way. She's that's how she's made to sound in this book. That she's a very attractive woman and she's a doctor. Oh, she's not just attractive, she's not just sexy, she's a doctor? Holy crap. So she comes in and tells them all, oh, this giant shark, he's he's a tiger shark. It's a tiger shark. And well, they usually don't get that big, but this one is, for some reason, it's gotten that big because, oh, weird things happen in the ocean. And so what you better do is, it's come in to eat easy prey, and easy prey are all these people out swimming, of course. And the council refuses to close the beaches because money. And of course, our detective is trying to hook up with this marine biologist, which he does eventually. And then in comes this giant hurricane, the worst hurricane in ever, and the shark is forgotten, entirely forgotten. And then there's police brutality of these cops trying to get all these people to, go to shelters, and a cop just pulls out a gun and shoots a guy in the legs like it's nothing. That's never mentioned again, and eventually all those people involved in that are killed in the. They're having a cocaine sex party in a high-rise condo, and the hurricane breaks the glass and kills them all. People are killed by pebbles flying off roofs. People are literally skinned by the wind of this hurricane. And it just fails. It just fails. The shark is nowhere to be found in the middle of this hurricane. And our hero detective is in his apartment, and he just drinks himself into a stupor. And that's pretty much the end of the book. The hurricane wipes. This is not. I'm not trying to spoil this book. This book has to be read. The whole book is a. You can't spoil this one because, I mean, look at it. You know pretty much what you're getting. And so this was my first Garbaugust read this year, and it wasn't horrible. I enjoyed it, but it does read like a high schooler wrote it, and was just kind of having a weird wish fulfillment. And nothing is tied up. No ends are tied up. Everything's left loose. The hurricane wipes out the city. The detectives don't do anything about the shark at all. And it goes on being a shark. It's still out there floating around, causing trouble. It kind of reads like maybe the person. I think that I got to be honest. I think Donald Cheatham is probably a pen name. I don't think this was published under the person's real name. For one thing, I looked, and as far as I can tell, Donald Cheatham never published another book. This is I don't know. Can you see that? This is a zebra book, and all the zebra horror that I've ever read had lovely covers, just awesome covers. But the books are not very interesting, or they're not very good. I mean, they're entertaining sometimes. Sometimes they have dialogue so bad that you just kind of, oh, I don't like bad dialogue. Bad dialogue is like nails on a chalkboard. And I don't think I could recommend this one. Um, it's I don't know what he was going for in this one. And I feel like whatever he was aiming for, he missed that target. And Zebra bought it and made it into this book. I kind of wonder if it was written with. It wouldn't really surprise me if this was a novelization of a movie. I don't think it was, but it could be. It. I'll say that the hurricane scenes with the wind and the killer wind and the killer pebbles and the killer glass and the destruction, that's written really well, and the shark attacks are written really well. But but the dialogue is horrendous. You get and everything that happens is through dialogue and not very good dialogue. And I mean, these two detectives, they're supposed to be homicide detectives, and they don't do any detective work at all except driving around, going to bars, and it just, like I said, it reads like somebody who was young wrote this, somebody who didn't have any experience with reality. And yeah, so that's Riptide by Donald D. Cheatham from 1984. This is my first Garbaugust read. I read it about 10 days ago, and it stayed pretty fresh in my mind. So there is that. But you know, happy Garbaugust, everybody. So yeah, thank you. See you next time.